It's Friday, June 1st of 2018. Let's talk about trains on Guy's Daily Drive. And good afternoon. My goodness, what a week. The weather is gorgeous outside. It's 90 degrees. So great. I love this time of year. People complain about, oh, it's too hot. I don't know what to do. I love warmer weather. Now, a couple things to talk about. If I can get here onto the road without killing myself and everyone else, because that's important. Okay. As far as, I remember when, I've got a couple of these in the can now that I haven't posted yet. But some of the news involving this show is that I have gotten at least one podcasting aggregating service, Spotify, to recognize my RSS feed for the audio version of this show. So I've got the month of February and March converted over into MP3 format and uploaded. I'm kind of still waiting on Apple to allow it into iTunes. I don't really know what the holdup is there. It's been over a week. It's not like there's anything really controversial about this show. It is pretty much straightforward, just a guy in a car talking about stuff. But for whatever reason, Apple doesn't seem to want to pull their finger out of the plug and get this into iTunes. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to continue plugging away. Like I said, I've got it onto one podcast aggregator. So I will start looking around and getting on as many as I can. One thing I have noticed, listening to the audio version of this show in the car, is the audio is kind of low. So, not so much with the ones I've already converted, but going forward as I convert these into MP3 formats, I will pay a little more attention to how loud they are. I'm going to boost the volume in them a little bit more. However, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about trains. Let's talk about trains. The first train that I took was a really long one. We were going from Vienna, Austria to Zurich, Switzerland. We went through the mountains, scenic countryside, and it was just gorgeous, and I loved it. And I had a few other train rides while I was in Europe. Not that many, less than I would have liked. I also, just because the distances weren't that long, I took some trains while I was in Korea, from like Seoul to Daegu and Busan and Gwangju, just because it was so much less expensive. And honestly, dealing with an hour or two that you have to be at the airport ahead of time, and then the tiny short flight, and then getting all your stuff afterwards, especially with all the stuff that we used to carry, it just wasn't worth it. So we took trains throughout Korea, and it was okay. Korean train. This, you have to remember also that this is in the 80s, so I'm sure the trains have changed, but they weren't really all that impressive. I mean, they were okay. but the rides themselves weren't that long. I also took a train ride from Tokyo to one of the old capitals of Japan, Kyoto, and that was on the bullet train. I took the bullet train mostly because I wanted to take the bullet train, and it did not disappoint. It was fast and comfortable and luxurious and all the things that an expensive train ride should be. Well, after I stopped traveling overseas, didn't really ride trains that much anymore. I had a couple of trips to New York from DC, and then from New York back to DC. But I mean, those are a couple hours, not that big a deal. But then last year, and actually the year before that as well, when I took Guy to Boston, after we got everything out of the truck, I kind of procrastinated to the point where there was no longer a plane that I could take back to DC. And how much of it was on purpose and how much of it was just I'm tired after the long day, and driving that truck all over Boston. Because for those who may or may not remember the story, I'll have to go back and see if I talked about it. But we drove from this area, the DC area, to Boston over the course of 2 days, and then went to Guy's new place along with some of the neighbors' stuff, and then went to the neighbor's old place, got some more stuff, and then to the neighbor's new place and dropped stuff. And it was a whole day of driving a big ass truck through Boston on the same day that everybody else was driving big ass trucks. That's the long and the short of it. So I couldn't get a plane. All the planes were either booked or it was too late. So instead, I took the train from Boston to DC. And it was like 10, 11 hours. And we left at 9:30 at night and got in 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So that's what, 8.5 to 10 hours, something like that. And it was on Amtrak, and it was all right. It was comfortable. I got the regular coach seat. I wish I had spent a little more and gotten a business class seat that was a little bit bigger, though honestly, I didn't really need it. There was plenty of room on the train itself for me. I didn't really sleep that well, but that wasn't necessarily the train's fault. And the food is okay, I mean, it's all prepackaged stuff, especially on milk runs, like, some of the Northeast Corridor trains are. Couldn't smoke, and because I was still smoking at the time, so that was kind of a pain in the ass. Though, now that I have stopped smoking for over a year, it wouldn't be that big a deal. It was then. A couple things that were really nice about the train. They didn't have Wi-Fi enabled at the time, though most of the longer runs now do have Wi-Fi, which is nice. But all the seats had 120 volts, plugs, so you could plug in laptops. I actually didn't really, I had my laptop with me, didn't really use it that much. I was mostly just making sure that the iPad was charged, so that I was watching movies and TV shows and things along those lines. And remember, I keep saying, like, you should remember, because I probably haven't told you, the iPad Pro that I have has cell connectivity. So even though they didn't have Wi-Fi on the train, I could download some stuff, not everything, because anything I think over 100 megs, the service that I use gets upset and doesn't really let you do it that well. But it was a nice ride. Now, some of the things that I want to do going forward as far as trains go, I would like to take the auto train for one thing. And if you don't know what the auto train is, that leaves from this area, from Lorton, Virginia, and you drive your car there. They take your car, load it onto a train car, and then you get into the train and you ride down to Sanford, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando. And when you get there, you have your car there waiting for you. Now, how long it takes to load and how long it takes to unload, you can pay a little extra, and they kind of bump you up in the queue. And this is an official charge. It's not like you're paying someone under the table to, can you get my car out first? Because, basically the way it works, the last cars that they load onto the train are going to be the first ones that they unload. It's not like if, your car is 20 rows down that you can slip somebody a $20 bill and they'll be able to get it off the train car faster. It just doesn't work that way. So if you pay a little extra, you can, they'll wait and load your car last, or one of the last. So I'd like to do that. Now, I've talked about it incessantly since I started doing the show. But the MacStock Expo is coming up, and something I am considering. There is a direct train. It has stops, but it's not like I have to get off the train and get onto another train that goes from Washington, D.C. to Chicago. And it would take me longer than if I flew or if I drove. However, because it's an overnight train, I don't have to spring for a hotel, because leaving, I don't care what time you leave or what time I would leave on the Wednesday before MacStock happens. I doubt that at this point I could drive straight through to Chicago. It would be really, really rough to do that. So if you kind of count a couple of things. Number one, you have a rental car for 2 days less, which is probably, depending on what kind of car you have, anywhere from $40 to $80. And then you're also not paying for a hotel. So that's, $100 plus. You're not paying for, at least there and back, 4 to 5 fill-ups of gas. That's $250. So if you count all the expenses of driving to Chicago versus taking the train actually ends up being cheaper. And then when you get to Chicago on the other side, you get your rental car there. So that's something I'm considering. And if I did do it, I would spring the extra and get like a sleeper car, just because it would be kind of cool to take be in a sleeper car overnight in a train, or at least I want to think it would be kind of cool. For all I know, I may be just sitting there in the little tiny compartment. They're pretty small, going, yeah, not as cool as I thought it was. So those are some of my train stories, things that I have done, things that I want to do. If you'd like to get a hold of me, guy@mymac.com, probably. guy at mttfgo.com. But besides Guy's Daily Drive, you can also find my various ramblings on the MyMac.com podcast that I do with Gaz. Though tomorrow I'm actually going to be recording with Simon Parnell. Though by the time anybody sees this, it will have already happened. I also do the Mac to the Future Go livecast on Facebook on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. You can find me there as well. My Twitter handle is MacParrot. We have a Skype telephone number that you can call for whatever reason you might want to call a Skype telephone number and not hear it on this show. That is 703-436-9501. That is the number. And of course, July 21st and 22nd, we have the MacStock Conference and Expo, which is just going to be awesome. You don't want to miss that. Using the coupon code MyMac, all one word, MYMAC, your cost for the entire conference. Now, of course, this does not include your hotel, food outside of the conference, or your lodging. You still have to pay for those yourself. Come on. $179. This is a crazy low price for a conference with all of the stuff that's going to be going on here. Don't miss this show. You will not regret it. So, having said all of that, and I am having to pay a little more attention to driving because things are starting to slow down. Thank you all so very, very much for watching Guy's Daily Drive, and I will catch you next time. Woo, woo.